Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much to the editors and to the genre editors and all of the people who work on this magazine. I did it for a long time and I know what hard work it is, so I really appreciate it. So I interviewed Ada Limón for an hour from her home in California. It had been raining for 2 weeks. It was winter and the sun had just come out. And so she went outside and sat in her backyard with her very chunky pug dog running around in the grass. And we talked on the phone and it was great. At that point, her poet laureate term would be ending in 2 months, which would have been April. When it did end, right before it ended, I went to the reading at the Library of Congress, her last one. And the title of her talk was, I want to make sure I get it right, Against Breaking, on the Public and Private Power of Poetry. So that title tells you all you need to know about her resolve. She didn't read her own poetry at this event. I was kind of disappointed, but she did, of course, read incredible poetry. She read John Keats and Lucille Clifton and Robert Haas and H.D. And she began her talk by asking the sold-out audience, what is true these days, and how does one know it? This is when I put my faith in poetry. So in our discussion for this beautiful magazine, we talked about her poem, Not the Saddest Thing in the World, in which, in the poem, she buries a dead baby bird that she finds. And I asked her why it was important for her to note everyday beauty in poetry. And one of the lines in the poem is, she makes everything a big deal. So I asked her, why did you make everything a big deal? And she said, it's funny. People will ask me, how do you find things to write about? I have to stop myself from writing about everything. If I could just sit here and describe what I'm seeing, that could be enough. We live in a world in which there's a lot being thrown at us all the time, and we are first and foremost concerned with our ability to survive. We have to be. Because of that, we have to create a kind of armor that protects us, that tells us who is safe, who isn't. We sometimes have to suffer through a job that we dislike or that is demeaning in order to put food on the table. We know how to be and to act in a world that doesn't make room for our range of human emotions. Sometimes because of that, we're not allowed to show our attachments. We're not allowed to show our wonder. We've had to turn off a lot of our tenderness because it's too much. How do you remain tender and then also absorb the terrible news? It would break you. I think that this is Ada Limón speaking, of course. I think that poetry allows the space for you to remember how attached you are to the world. And remember that you were affected by the smaller things, whether it's a small bird that died and you held in your hand before you buried, or whether it was the roadkill you passed on the way to work, or whether it was the terrible unkindness that you witnessed on the bus or in the subway. We're supposed to just swallow that and keep our heads down and go about our day. I think that piles up, and it changes who you are. It changes our chemistry. Poetry allows us to turn back on those receptors that receive the world, all of it. So if you're talking about the small, beautiful things, it allows you to be in awe of those things. But what people find dangerous about poetry is that it also allows you to be full of grief for those things. It allows you to be full of rage for injustices and allows you to realize that every time you pass this particular building, you think about someone you've lost. It hurts. It's this contract, right? In this space of this page, I will allow myself to feel because the world doesn't want us to feel. There's a sort of self-protection that's much needed. You can't remain completely tender to the universe in every moment of the day. It would be almost impossible to move through the world that way. So poems allowed you to recognize it and pay homage to it. And the last question that I asked her, I won't read her answer, but you can read it in the interview, was about what poet laureate Truth Thomas, Howard County poet laureate Truth Thomas, calls the runway to fascism. And I asked her about what can a poet laureate say about free speech and resistance, and it was a good answer. But I'll let you read it. But I will read one poem, and I carry this one around in my calendar. I loved this poem of hers, so I was very honored to interview her. It's called Instructions on Not Giving Up. More than the fuchsia funnels breaking out of the crabapple tree, more than the neighbor's almost obscene display of cherry limbs shoving their cotton candy-colored blossoms to the slate sky of spring rains, it's the greening of the trees that really gets to me. When all the shock of white and taffy, the world's baubles and trinkets, leave the pavement strewn with the confetti of aftermath, the leaves come, patient, plodding, a green skin growing over whatever winter did to us, a return to the strange idea of continuous living despite the mess of us, the hurt, the empty. Fine then, I'll take it, the tree seems to say, a new slick leaf unfurling like a fist to an open palm. I'll take it all. Thank you.